The Philippine Constitutional Convention of 1971 was called to change the 1935 Constitution of the Philippines. The public region contains the Philippine Archipelago, with every one of the island and water embraced in that, and any remaining regions over which the Philippines has sway or purview, comprising of its airbound, fluvial and flying spaces, including its regional ocean, the seabed, the dirt, the isolated rocks and other submarine regions. Whether or not the central government on the state would have more power was hotly debate issue during the convention. Terrorist activity continues to pose a threat from groups such as the Abu Sayyaf Group, Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighter, Jamia Islamiyah, New People's Army, and other associated groups. Some groups have pledged allegiance to Daesh and are likely to regard Westerner as legitimate target. Certainly, psychological militant gathering and occasion in different nations have propelled or supported rough radically in archipelagic Southeast Asia for quite a long time. However, they are not aloof beneficiaries of teaching and strategies, nor are they towards former northward transitional aspiration. In the 16th century, Spanish frontier authorities allude the Filipino Muslim as Moro, mistaking the personality for that of Spanish Moors. Even today, the Bangsamoro though fails in an identification of personality, featuring the presence of their town even before the current Philippine state was laid out. The central axis of the agreement is the establishment of a new self-governing entity called Bangsamoro, which will replace the existing autonomous region of Muslim Mindanao after this transited led by the MILF. In terms of endorsement, the peace agreement must be transformed into a law that will regulate the statute of autonomy called the Bangsamoro Basic Law. Each peace process responds to a specific conflict that emerged for concrete reasons and in concrete circumstances. Cholera has been more normal somewhat recently. It is principally featured due to its proclivity for spreading rapidly, coming full circle in expected mortality in the event that legitimate treatment isn't given. Cholera has been connected to an absence of admittance to further develop sterilization. Cholera, then again, presently can't seem to be seen regardless of further developed water shortages. To exacerbate this situation, cholera struck, it was basically a choice between passing on from starvation or passing on from cholera for the number of inhabitants in the conflict-torn domain. Example of these are the people who live in Santiago, Caraga, Davao Oriental that suffered cholera before. Many people died because of these symptoms, and because of that we can say that cholera is not just a normal disease. Mental is commonly known as Little Tokyo, but there is a little to remind one of Tokyo. In fact, the town looked like any other typical town along any Philippine highway. Tired, dusty, and sleepy. It's a metropolitan legend, maybe a mysterious one, since few Filipino nationals or even Davaoenos know that the Japanese people group that got comfortable Davao during the Commonwealth period was among the most moderate in the beginning of Davao, passing on behind an enduring inheritance that keeps on impacting us today. In the Philippines, there are few mental towns or odd areas where uniqueness has been darkened by the progression of time. These areas are just sitting tight for you to step up their plate in their rediscovery. Republic Act No. 1400, an act to ordain the Agricultural Land Reform Code and to institute land reform in the Philippines, including the abolition of tenancy and the channeling of capital into industry. Provide for the necessary implementing agencies, appropriate funds, therefore and for other purposes. This code was authorized to initiate land changes in the Philippines and pointed toward laying out proprietor cultivarship and the family-sized ranch as the premise of Philippine agribusiness, accomplishing an honorable presence for the life ranches, liberated from malevolent modern limitation and practices, and making little ranches more free, confident, and dependable residents. Services can be carried out in two ways: through land procurement and dispersion, or through leasehold activities. The exchange of government and private agrarian grounds to landless ranchers and homestead workers is known as land change. Previous President Ferdinand A. Marcos announces military regulation in 1972 with Proclamation No. 1081, which denote the finish of the 1935 Constitution and the start of 1973 Constitution. A vote of 3/4 of the member of the National Assembly could likewise start protecting change, as indicated by 1973 Constitution. One of the difficulties in the Philippine ongoing interaction is that there is no solid public health or protected alteration. President Duterte has the most troublesome task of all, public resolutiveness, while possibly not by a large lack of care at the whole undertaking. Regardless of whether he enjoy it, there should be much more open discussion. The 1987 Constitution laid out a delegate-a-vote-based system with three unmistakable and autonomous part of government: the executive, the bicameral legislature, and the judiciary. The Commission on Audit, the Civil Service Commission, and the Commission on Electric were all free established commission. A full Bill of Rights was fused into the Constitution, ensuring principal common and political privileges as well as free, fair, and instant decision. The motivation behind the Constitution is to restrict the force of the public authority to such an extent that the freedom of the resident are shielded from government abuse. This contrast of importance and understanding regarding what the genuine text of the Constitution possesses can make separating perspective with respect to how the court ought to keep the law when deciphering applying the language of the Constitution to current realities of another case.
I got broads in Atlanta, just to throw me in the family. Credit cards and the scammers, hitting the licks in the van. Legacies.